Okay, so let's attempt to give this activity one a solution. This is the activity one here. I've grabbed this from the document that you have here. So let's see how can we solve this, or at least get something really close to it, right? So let us just have our document ready. So I'm just going to go to my lab activities and create a folder, call it act1.html, and our boilerplate, and this is it. So let's get started. So this is activity one. Let's take a look here. We have a logo that takes you to this image, right? So I'm just going to download this image and I will put it at the same folder, which happens to be recording here. Okay, so save this. All right, now there is a link that takes you to the photo, right? So let's have this link ready. All right, so this is it. That's the photo. So the photo certainly will have some kind of ID, right? If you've watched the previous CSS video, you're gonna see that this is typically an ID. This has an ID that whenever you click, it takes you to this part of the image, right? So let's say that this is going to be something like image or image ID. That's it, right? So go to image. What was it called? Go to the HTML logo, to the logo, right? All right, let's open up the preview. So this is how this is looking. Now let's have another PR, I believe, and another HR. Okay, there is a small space here. Now I'm just going to use the developer tools. I'm not even going to open the elements. I'm just going to open something else. So, or I'm just going to grab this like that, so I don't look at the solution. Okay, so I need to look at the solution. I just want to see if this is having like an HR. Yeah, that's an HR. So you know what, let's just stick to this solution without looking at the developer tools at all. So I think there is a BR beneath and a BR before of it. So let's just hope that this is how things are looking. Alright, so we can even have this on the same line. Okay, just to make this more readable, and indent this guy like that. And let's welcome to my first website. I'm just going to take this, put this guy inside of a I think this is an H1, I believe, like that. Alright, so it has a color and it has a background. So I'm just going to use external CSS here. So link, and I'm going to call it styles. And let's say this is activity one. Okay, so let's create in the same folder here. I think I'm going to put all of these inside a folder called activity one. So I'm just matching whatever you are doing here, or the tree that I've told you about. So I'm just going to put this here and put this there, and let's create a new file and call it styles act1.css. Cool. Right. All right, so just delete all of these files, we don't need it so far. And let's give this h1, let's give it a color of pink. Okay, and what do we have here? That's I don't think that's pink, but that's like a bolder value of pink. But anyways, let's pick the color picker here and let's choose something like this. Alright, and a background color of something that is really light, like that. I think this is gonna do the trick. You can even make it even lighter. Alright, this is working so far. Now we have, I think there is a space. Let's see how things are going. This is Google and it's opening in a blank tag. So let's make a link here, an anchor tag. I'm back to the HTML page, by the way, and this should open up google.com. Remember, from the anchor tags or hyperlinks, if you put it like that, it might not work. So let's just put the HTTPS part. Okay, and if you want it to open in a new tab, you can just have the target as underscore blank and go to Google like this, right? And I think the spaces are good so far, it's matching here. And we have, I think there's a BR, come on, there is a BR and there's an HR. Okay, so there's it's so obvious that there's some kind of a space here. So let's say that there is going to be another BR and cool paragraph, cool paragraph, cool paragraph. I'm just going to take all of these and put it inside a P tag here. No, just a P tag, not PHP. Okay, so that's it, and let's just indent this to make it readable. And there's the front end and depth, and this is, I believe that is smaller, so this is maybe an inch 2. Okay, so there is a color and a background, and notice how the width is collected. So the width, this is literally spanning the whole width of the screen. So if I open the developer tools just to see a sneak peek on this one, you're gonna see that this is taking the whole width of the screen. Alright, but this one, which is happening to be an H2, see the width here is this blue box right there. So this is the width, and it is, I don't know, it's 300. You can tell from there, right? You can look at the styles that I gave already. Alright, you can see that this is 300, but you can also tell from this box, it's telling you so many things. It's telling you that the width is 300 pixels by whatever the height of the text is, which is it happens to be the font size here of the H2, and there's no padding, there is no border, there is no, there is a margin, and the margin is taking the width of the screen, the whole width of the screen, right? And it's taking a top and bottom margin of 19 pixels, I believe, or 20 pixels, right? And so there is a 300 pixel width on this guy, so let's just give it. Okay, so let's minimize this first and go to our H1 or H2. Now, do we have other H2s here? I think we have. So this is an H2 and this is an H2. So this is a good opportunity to give this a class. So because if you just grabbed all of the H2s and give it something like a color red and background gray, you're gonna see that every H2 is going to be inheriting the same things. So we want to make stuff unique and stuff different than the others, right? So you're gonna say that we have, this is going to be a class, and please remember the class that you give to your tags. So this is a class that is going to be something like H2 class, right? Or I don't know, I can make it something related to the content itself, something like front end and div, front end like this, H2 front end, right? Don't make it extremely long because it's going to be looking really annoying afterwards. Okay, so this is a class, so it starts with a dot, and here we go. Let's start with the color. This is blue, and we have the background of gray. Okay, that's really gray, so I think that's something like that. That's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit lighter. And the width here is taking a fixed size of 300 pixels. All right, so far so good. Now let's just go here and look at the rest. What do we have? We have this nested lists, so let's just put this there. First of all, we have JavaScript, so that's the first element of the order list. Notice this is an order list, but you know, it's reversed, and there is some kind of a highlighting here. We've never seen this before, so I'm just going to show you how to do this. So this is an ordered list, right? And the first element here is JavaScript. Okay, so this is the first one, and let's have this reversed as I've shown you in the previous video, right? But it doesn't tell you that this is 3 because you only have 1 point, so it doesn't really say that this is reversed yet. So all right, let's go there, and we have, that is a list, that's a point, a point, a point. So we have CSS, and we have, okay, that's CSS and HTML. So let me just remove this guy, and we have a nested unordered list inside this JavaScript. So this is, let's make an unordered list like that. So sum of JavaScript frameworks, okay, that is what has been written. So let's just take it. I'm not going to type anything, I'm just going to copy and paste. Alright, so this is the first one. Okay, and let's just take these guys there. I don't think this is gonna work, so I'm just going to say li. Okay, so these are the three lists, right? And what do we have else? We have an unordered list inside CSS, right? So there is an unordered list inside CSS. So all of these are unordered. So underneath here, this is the title, and okay, notice that these spaces are not going to make any difference in the actual layout. I just want things to be aligned vertically correctly. So we have, what do we have? Materialize, this is the main, and this is the main point, and this is the main point. So we have one here, which one here, one here, oh, I'm sorry, one there, one here. Okay, so this is a list like this. Okay, and we have 3 points inside materialize. All right, so these are, what are these? These are unordered lists as well. So this is the title of it, right? And these are the 2 points. Okay, so let's just go there and create the list. On here as well, and this is it. Okay, so this is your list. Now let's see how are we styling this. These 3 are red, right? So we can do one of them. We can use a class, we can attach a class to each one of them. Okay, and we can pick the direct childs to this list, right, or to this point. So if this point has direct childs, we can give it like any colors. So let's start with the first one, the one that you probably have guessed. So let's just make a class here, and let's call that, this is make red, or just red like that, right? And we can go to our external here and say that red is going to have a color of red. That's one way to do it. I'm just going to comment it out. There's another way to do it. We can say that I'm going to grab this JavaScript, that's the first element, right? And let me just give this a class. So instead of giving classes to these, I'm just going to give a class to this one. And we can target these 3 elements, right, by targeting the head of the UL. Notice that this is a UL, right? So I can just say, if I know what this UL is gonna have, or if I know where is this UL, right? If I know that this is, for example, this is the UL that I want to have its direct children, like all of the LIs inside this UL, I need it to be red, and instead of giving everyone a class, right? So instead of giving like multiple classes, we can just target the parent right there, right? And give it something like JavaScript. Let's just give class JavaScript, since this section is talking about JavaScript. One would ask, why wouldn't we give the JavaScript to this one? Well, if you notice, this open tag has been closed already in the same place, so there is no way to get to the rest of the elements here, right? But if you give the class JS, for example, or whatever the name, it's just a naming thing. I'm just naming it JavaScript because this is what we are talking about here. So if you give this class to this UL, and this is the parent, you can obviously target the direct children of these elements. So you can just say something like this. You can go there now and say the JavaScript, right, grab that UL, right, which happens to have this class, and I can say the UL that has this class without a white space, and this is representing just one element, which is in this case this part, okay, or I can just leave it as it is, like JS. Both are the same. And once you have these, you can just say that I'm going to target every UL underneath, right? So we can say that any UL, or sorry, any LI underneath is going to be having a color of red. Okay, and here you go. If I didn't put this JavaScript, then this is not going to be as you expect. So it's going to grab every UL that has an LI underneath of it, right? And it's going to give these LIs a color of red, and that's not typically what we want, right? There is another thing that if you watch the CSS videos, the previous video is going to have something called the direct child, and this is the same as just saying something like this, right? So I'm just saying that this is the direct children. So the direct children of the UL, which happens to have a class of JS, right? And these children, if they are LIs, then just grab them and give them the color of red. And the difference between this and the previous one, which is basically without this right angle bracket, is that if you have something like that, and if you happen for some reason to add another unordered list somewhere like this, so let me just say that this is going to be an unordered list, and this is anything, is going to be highlighted in red, right? But if you are targeting the direct children for this UL, right, this is a direct child, and this is a direct child, this is a direct child. So if I have it like that, then it's not going to get that UL. It's only the direct children of this element, right? So I'm going to leave it like this. In this case, we don't really have that. I just wanted to show you what this is going to be looking like if we had like nested elements. So having this like this without or with the angle bracket, or the direct child selector, is going to be the same in this case. Let's take a look at the rest. So what we have here. Alright, so we have this guy is to be highlighted in, regardless of the highlight here, you have this colored in blue, the first one, right? So we can say that this guy is the first element, which is, it's this one, right? Which you can find it in the UL here, and this can be found in the bigger UL right there, okay? Which can be found in the bigger UL. I think no, this has been already closed, so it can be found from the bigger OL. So you can just say OL UL, then get to the nested one here. So OL UL UL, right, and get to this one. Let's say that this is going to have a class of blue, right? So I'm just going to go there, right, and let's say this is going to be OL UL UL, and then blue, and give it a color of blue like that. And you can take away all of these and it's gonna work as well. The thing is, all of these descendants are good just in case this didn't, like for example, at some point some rules that you are going to write for the CSS script or the CSS style sheet, maybe they will not be identified. So writing only the class like that might not work. Sometimes it might not work, okay? So if it didn't work, if it worked from the first trial, then good for you. If it didn't, you know how to trace the whole tree from the beginning, right? And this is it. Now, let's say that this ordered list, right, we want to give its elements some kind of a hover effect, right? So whenever you highlight over it, it gives you like a light or yellow color. So how can we do that, right? So we can do the following. Let's say that we want to grab these two, which are inside this UL. So let's give this UL a class, for example, and let's call it something like, what kind of list is that? That's the materialize. See, it's written here that this is the materialize list. So I'm just gonna name it regarding the content, so I can know what kind of class that I'm talking about. So this is the materialize class. So I'm just going to grab this class, and I'm going to say that for every li under this materialize UL, notice that this is being given to the UL. So for every li underneath, I'm going to give it something called a pseudo class. And pseudo class are something that happens whenever you, for example, hover over some kind of element, hover over a link, or whenever you click on a link. So there are so many pseudo classes. You have hover, you have focus, you have something like active, right? So I'm just going to show you hover here, right? So I'm going to use hover. Notice that I'm hovering over the lists that are under the UL that has the class materialize, right? So let's say that whenever we hover, we're gonna have the color of yellow. Now if we went there, we're gonna see that this is the hovering effect. Now one last thing before we finish, instead of giving a class blue to this one, we can do something really good instead of that. So I'm just going to take away this class blue, right? And I'm going to comment this out. Let's say that you want to target the first list here, the first child only of the materialize UL here. So you can say the following. Notice that this is the UL that has the materialize class. So you can just say something like materialize, right? And we can say that I want to grab the list that is under that UL. So I want the first list, the first child. So from the lists that are under the UL, I want to grab the first child, and this can be achieved via another pseudo class that is called nth child. So I want to grab the first child list that is under the UL materialized, right? So now we can just say something like color blue, and here you go, it's blue, right? So this is the same as this, okay? And anything that starts with a colon like this is, as we've said, this is called a pseudo class, like that, okay? And that's, I think this is the first part. So let's see what is left. We have this guy, and this is an h2 as well. So I'm just going there and creating, I think there is a line. So there's an hr h2, okay, and we can have this as a class, another class. We give the first h2 front end. I just want to stick to my conventions of naming things, so this is going to be h2 back end. So let's take this guy and go to the css part. Oops, what? Okay, now let's say that we are targeting this class, and we are going to give it the same stuff that we gave that h2 front end, right? So it's going to have the same width, I believe. They have the same width. So this is something that they share together. So we can say h2 front end, right? And the h2 back end, both of them are going to be having the same width, right? Something is not right, there's a comma right there. Okay, so that's h2 back end, like that. Now we can give a color and a background to the h2 back end, but this is like black and white. So this is white and this is going to be black. All right, and we have a block code. There's an indentation, so that's a block code right there, a block code, and we don't need this citing for now, so you can just take all of this. Okay, and there is a tag actually called cite, so you can just say cite like that, and it is by default, as you see, it's giving you that italic kind of feeling. Okay, and finally we have the logo. There is an HR, I believe, and that's the HTML logo, and let's put this inside an h3. Not sure if this is an h3, but let's just make it an h3. And this is an HTML page, and this is the image, and it's called html.png. Okay, well, it's really big, so let's just give it some width. And instead of using the width and height properties from the HTML script, we know CSS now, aren't we, right? So we are familiar with CSS. So we can just say that this image tag is going to have a width of 200 pixels and a height of 200 pixels. So that's a square for you. Okay, and there is up top, so this takes you to the start. So this is a hyperlink, right? So this is up to the top, and remember that link, it should takes you to the image. And notice how this is actually coming beneath or right next to the image. We want this to be underneath, so you can just make a break. Oops, a break like that. Okay, and this link, we are going to give this image some kind of ID. So let's just call it, we've set it up there, right? Yeah, we said that this is going to be called image ID. So I'm just going to use the same stuff here. Where is it? Yeah, this is the ID of the image. So image ID. So whenever you go there, you go to the image and back again, and that's it. Okay, easy. All right.